Hello, and we're live once again on another Tuesday, and I have a special guest in the house, and we are having technical challenges today, but that's okay. We're going to do it. We're doing it with the technology of phone. If it worked for Alexander Graham Bell, it can work for us. So I have Kathie York in the house today. She can't hear me on the headphones, but she's hearing me on the telephone. So Kathie, can just don't worry, know that everybody can hear you. Your microphone is working good. So can you just introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do, and we'll get stuck in.
Okay, now, first of all, can you hear me okay here?
We can hear you.
On? Okay, yep. This is the ultimate in non-overwhelm, folks. We are going to make this, we're going to make this work. I am Kathie York, the queen of non-overwhelm, who always gets to her meetings early. Thank goodness. Thank you, Gillian. Oh man, you should have seen this 2 minutes ago. I am a goals accountability coach, and the certification on that is big and fancy and schmancy, goal success life coach. So there you go. I taught biology, zoology for several years. I've worked as an IT liaison. And what that means is you're the person between IT and the regular people like you and me, and they have no clue what's going on. And now you have to help people talk to each other. So it's been a fun journey, and I'm used to working with people who have no clue about something, and we just work together and we work it up and we make it work. So awesome. That's me.
Awesome. Yeah. Great intro. Great intro. So so our topic today is, it's so funny because it's like so appropriate. Reaching non-overwhelm in business and life. And to be honest with you, what a perfect thing, what a perfect topic for what we're going through today, because sometimes we do get into overwhelm. And the thing is that you have to basically stop, look, and listen. It's kind of like that, what we learned when we were little kids, when you go out in traffic, stop, look, and listen. And we had to do that this morning. Just stop for a second and just say, okay, we need to find a plan B. How do we find a plan B? You pick up a telephone, you try to use telephones. My phone's on do not disturb, all sorts of great things going on. But this is really the great lesson here is that when you are in overwhelm, Kathie, is that not true? When we're not just talking about going on a live today, we're talking about in business and life, the first thing you need to do is learn how to stop. So basically, why don't you walk us through the story of how you even, I know you wrote a book on it. So, Kathie's got a book. We'll put the book in the link. You can check out her book. But the thing is that something prompted you to even stop. There we go. To stop, take a breath, and write your book. So can you share your story, please?
Well, the story goes way back to my 20s, and I'll make it work very fast. Anyway, I was so sick in my 20s because, like many of you, I bet, I was the queen of everything. The world was not going to revolve without me. I never learned to say no to anything. And I mean, I'm in my 20s. And finally, I had a doctor after I had seen, and this is in the book, but several specialists who were saying things like, we've never seen, you don't want that. Finally ended up 3 weeks bed rest. Now, you may think that's great. And if you like to read like I do, woohoo, 3 weeks bed rest. Yeah. But here's the humbling part. The world got along without me. The world went along just fine. And the final lecture from my doctor was, if you don't learn this little word, it's going to kill you. And it's called no. It's spelled N-O. You can't be all things to all people. And I see an awful lot of that, all things to all people now. Get off of your phone, get off of the screens, get off of this stuff. When you get home at night, it goes in a basket, boom, you're done. None of that in the bedroom, none of that anywhere while you guys are all doing whatever you do in the evening, that kind of thing. So once I got my act together on that, and I started doing the website stuff and all that, I wrote what ended up being 3 blog posts about non-overwhelm. And the first 5 steps were in the first blog. And then I added one about shut it down. or you're going to kill yourself. And then one about, it's a lot of office stuff that people had never thought of. People kept telling me, wow, I never thought of these things. And I thought, I better write it down. But then I find myself emailing people because they want help and, so on and so on. And they all kept saying, you need to put this in a book. So I put it in a book. And what I'm thrilled about the most about the book, when it comes to just looking at the pages with page numbers on them, it's only 45 pages. And it is changing people's lives because I wrote down what I learned and how I got to where I am now. And I'm telling you, Gillian, if you and I both had not been professional enough to, and she says this a lot in The Martian, work the problem. Just, okay, nothing you're going to do about this. That's a big part of non-overwhelm. If you can't fix it, okay, let's just work the problem and figure it out. And that is really hard because we all want to be the one that makes the world revolve.
Right.
Doesn't work that way.
Right. That's great. That's great. Yeah. And I know that a lot of people, they get onto LinkedIn, they get into social media, and they get overwhelmed. And I think a lot of it is because they don't have a plan. They, yes. And that's like, it really, like, we want to accomplish so much. You think about my day, I want to do so much all day long, and yet I only get this much done. But instead of beating myself up, I have to say to myself, hey, I got this much done, and that's okay. But you have to have an intentional plan, or else the goals elude you. And you're just like, okay, I want to do this and I want to do this. Pick one. And we talked earlier, about a week ago, we had a chat before our show, and we were talking about what we wanted to talk about. And you told me, what is the magic word that we all need to learn to get out of overwhelm? What was the magic word? Two letters, very short.
The magic word is no. And I do address that in my book, and people are just amazed. I said, well, do you want to do such and such? And they go, no. Then tell them no. But I don't care who it is. If you get hit by a Mack truck 10 minutes from now, whatever that is will get done. It's very humbling. It's going to get done whether you're going to do it or not.
It is. It is humbling. It is humbling. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that we move forward with in life is our wanting to do everything. Yeah. So we have this tendency to say yes. I'm one of these people that say yes, yes, which means I say yes, and then I go all in. But the problem is if I say yes to this and I say yes to this and I say yes to this, I run out of thises. I can't keep it up anymore. So we do have to learn how to say no to some things. And I'll bring up our common friend, John Asperian, who I believe he still has this little Post-it note that if it's not 100% yes to something, then it's a no. And yes. I agree with that.
And that's interesting because that's one thing in the goals accountability course I have the students go through this exercise, and I call it the bottom line bedrock rules. What are your 3 bottom line bedrock rules for saying yes to a project? And one of the students, bless her heart, she said, well, I'm going to go the opposite and do the no. And okay, well, that was cool. But here's the trick. If what you were thinking about doing does not entail all 3 of those items, the answer is no. All 3 of them have to.
So what was the 3? What was the 3?
That's your bottom line bedrock rules. And for me, my bedrock rules on whether or not I do a project, which the book for one. First of all, do I want to do it? And I put these 2 in one. Do I want to do it? And do I have the time to do it? Plus an extra month at the end. And I've gotten pretty good as a project manager. I've gotten pretty good about, giving myself plenty of time. The second thing the project has to be is it has to help people. Otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, there's no point. And my third bottom line bedrock rule is It has to be something they can do on their own. They can take what I've shown them, and this part of this is in my book about your steps to non-overwhelm. You have to tweak it if it doesn't work exactly for you. But here's what I have. This is how I do it, and this with my study is how it works. Now you tweak it as you want to. And the great thing about the live, when it's a group or a one-to-one training, is we can banter back and forth about that. And we can talk about, okay, well, what about this? What about that? But you, and John's right. I mean, if it's not 100%, and if you don't feel it, like, oh yeah, let's go for this, then what's the point?
Exactly.
Now, if we're working for the man, that doesn't work. You have to do what you're told to do, right? Yeah, quote. But when it comes to, do you want to set up the family picnic with 200 people?
Right.
No, I don't. Then you say no. And, all the guilt trips and,
Get
all
over
that.
it.
It's going to happen. But boy, I tell you what, once you start saying no, it's amazing how people go away.
Yes.
It's pretty cool.
I love that. I love that.
Saved my life.
And I know one of the things that you talked about in your book, which I thought was great, is that you need to build time into your week to do cleanup. And I liken it to, if we go somewhere, if we decide to go to a show or a movie or something like that, if we're going to go to something that's a timed event, we always have to give ourselves time to park the car. Because a lot of times you're like, oh, it only takes 20 minutes. Google Maps says it takes 20 minutes to get somewhere, but it could take you 10 or 15 minutes to park. And there's
especially
nothing
if you're
more
in a cone zone area. It's like, oh my goodness.
Exactly. But that's the same with our lives. If we don't have that time to park, where maybe we take a day and we say, okay, Mondays are my cleanup day, or maybe Fridays are my cleanup day. We have a day where you can catch up on projects, because otherwise then it blends into the weekend. Now you don't have any weekend. And, we're like our phones. If you don't plug us in and recharge the batteries, we're just going to get more and more drained. And I know I am now taking my weekends off. I shut the computer down. I walk away. I get out in nature. I try to do something. I do stuff with my husband. We just go and have fun, because it can't just be about working nonstop 24/7, because that's, I think, what puts us in overwhelm. So I thought that was brilliant that you included that in your book.
Yeah, I think that's important. And I try to do 2 days a week. They may not be consecutive days, but Sunday, there's no argument. Nothing happens on Sunday that is business, none of it. And I say, I don't think God needed a nap. I think he knew that we would need time. And it's amazing if you take Sunday off, do the church and all that in the morning if you want to, but don't go home to a computer. The computers are off, everything on Sunday. And I tell you what, you'll be ready to go on Monday.
It's true.
You'll be ready.
That's true. Yeah. And you know what? Everybody's a different religion. Some people are no religion at all. So
yeah, might just have Saturday or none. Yeah, right.
You just have to pick but you do need to have that time. Think of your cell phone. It's like, you don't want to make a call with your cell phone plugged into the wall, because then you're just like, okay, we don't have enough battery juice. We can't do that. No. We're the same. We have to have those things. And I also liked in your book, not only did you have time where you were doing cleanup work, you also had time for learning.
Yes.
And that is key, because when do we do that otherwise? And we know we have to learn. We have to sort out our files. I'm one of these people where I'm constantly training people, and I have to share my screen. I don't want to share my screen with a messy, desktop. That's how I normally live, but I don't like other people to see my messy screen. So I have a folder on my computer that says tidy. So if I'm meeting with clients, I can quickly whip anything that I wouldn't want other people to see, flip it into my folder called tidy. But then what I do is, once a day, I go through tidy and I clean it up. So if it's a bunch of screenshots I don't need anymore, they go in the trash can. If it's maybe some notes that I made for a client, I put it in the client folders, because I found that otherwise, if I don't do that, I'm just going to get more and more crap in the tidy folder. And then all of a sudden I'm like, why do I even have this? I don't even know what it is anymore. So you have to.
Well, the nice thing too, and I see a lot of people who don't do this, and I use Zoom. You can practice with Zoom. You can do your own meeting and go in and practice. And I make sure even every time I do the training on the course, I mean, you know, I've gone through it and I practically know it by heart. But before that lesson starts, about a day ahead of time, I go in, I get it all ready to go. I have the screen shares, everything. I'm making sure everything goes back and forth smoothly. I'm not looking around for anything. And my students appreciate that, because there isn't any of that shuffling around, and any of us who are doing that, it hurts the whole thing. So
exactly.
Can I tell you what I do online? Because I hope everybody has smelling salts, because some of them are going to faint. But anyway, first of all, because we're all online during the day, probably in some way, but you never check anything personal during work time. I'm talking about your personal email, personal Facebook, personal anything, none of it. If you were sitting in an office somewhere, you wouldn't be or shouldn't be doing that stuff, because you're stealing time. And if you're working for somebody else, you're stealing money, because that's not a place to do that stuff. But I don't do Twitter or Quora anymore for various reasons. I do have groups, but I'm on them only maybe every week or two. John Esperian knows that, and Gillian, you're in that group too, that you won't see me for a week or two, and then I'm on there and boom, boom, I'm answering everything, you know. But I always tell people I have one paid group on Facebook. I'm rarely on Facebook. I might post something in my account, but rarely, because my clients, my peeps, are on LinkedIn. 2 LinkedIn groups. One is paid, and that's John's. And then I co-manage a group for writers and editors and freelancers. I have one tech group, and every few days, and this is what I suggest everyone do, stop getting tied to the screens. Every few days I go in and I'll go through the top 5. I have all my stuff sorted, so it's the most recent, the top 5 messages. Let's say I'll go into John's group and do the top 5 messages. Can I answer something? Okay, then answer it. Otherwise, keep going. No more than 2 scrolls. You're done. And by that time, you should get to the stuff you've already done before, you've gone through before. Don't get stuck on there. Now, the nice thing about LinkedIn, you can go into the notifications. I had no idea those were there till John told us about it. I wasted years of time trying to find all my messages. I didn't know that was there. So you go into notifications. If someone has answered you back, then go in and be polite enough to acknowledge that and give them an answer. So one week it might be John's group. The next week it might be focusing on the group that I co-manage. But don't do it every day. Do not do it every day. And don't ever let anybody think you're going to get back to them immediately. Don't ever get back to anybody immediately. I don't care if it's email, phone, in a group somewhere. We have to get untied from these screens. They're killing us.
I agree. I agree.
And we're not that important. I'm sorry. None of us are that important. So anyway, if you do 2 scrolls, you're done. And if you can answer something, that's fine. And if you can't, that's fine. You know,
I like that. I like that. So speaking of scrolling, I'm seeing all sorts of wonderful comments go scrolling by. So I'm going to take this opportunity to invite everybody into our conversation today. So there's Jeff Young. He's always in the front row cheering us on.
Hi, Jeff.
And he says, as we both know, Gillian, LinkedIn can be a case of overwhelm all by itself. So true. Looking forward to hearing Kathie's advice from a business perspective. So I hope she shared some tips that were helpful for you. Jeff is one of those people he's extremely well organized. He's one of those people that has things in bookmarks. He can anything he's looking for, he has it tidied away. And it's like you say, how do you find this? He's like, boom, boom, boom. And he says, if he can do it in 1 click, that's better than 2 clicks. Like he just is so well organized. And sometimes it can feel like that's a lot, but it pays off in the end to have those organized processes. So Debbie says, hi to all from sunny Florida. Looking forward to this one. Were you going to say something, Kathie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, when it comes to what Jeff does, I have a links file on my desktop, and it's everything that I go into almost every week or whatever. If it's a mastermind or something I attend, that link is there on that file on my desktop. You know, email is screwed up. Well, usually you can get in from a link somewhere. You don't have to go in through your email. So just click that thing and go. And I mentioned in my book that I'm a lazy perfectionist. I want it all to work. I want it all to work great, but I'm a lazy perfectionist. You'll all like that story. It's fun. But the thing is, make it as easy as possible. And then you can just get on with your day. And you're not all frazzled then because you've been checking for stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And always have a backup plan. You know, like I know I used to do a lot of training on Zoom, not so much anymore. That's more like one-to-one clients. But I always used to have the Zoom meeting, a link to the Zoom meeting number, and then the telephone call-in number with the PIN. And I always had it handy so that if there was somebody that couldn't make the event, I could just boom. I had it, not like, oh, where is it? You know, and you're clicking around, and I think it's in settings, and it's like have your backup plan in place. I think
it pays to do that up front, and then you're not scrambling. Yeah.
Yep. So Islet says, hi all, hey all. And then we have Misha. Greetings from sunny Amsterdam. Oh, that's nice. It's nice. She was here last week and she was talking about presentations, and it was such a great show. Such a great show. Rhonda says, looking forward to learning from the best with this topic that affects all working professionals. And it really does. It really does. It's the same thing. Like, for instance, one of the things that you'll kind of laugh. I have not had a regular job. I don't even want to tell you how long it's been because my kids are all grown up now. And that's how long I've been an entrepreneur. But do you know I still have a resume? I still have a resume. I kept my resume up to date. And you might say, are you out of your mind? But it's like, how do I know that tomorrow I don't have to all of a sudden go, you know what? I think I better go find a job. Like something happens and I have to make that pivot. I always kept my resume up because I thought, I'm going to forget. I'm not going to be able to track all the different things. So, you know, this is just part of your business professional life. Always have these things ready to go. So I think that's so important. Hey, y'all. Coming through loud and clear, dear Kat and Kathie. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And I hear you just fine too. We cannot be all things to all pizza. People, we are not pizza. I love that. I love that. And I think that's true, Kathie. Don't you think that like sometimes we're trying so much. We have many roles, you know, it's like in addition to your business roles, you have, you know, the roles for your clients, you have the roles for people that follow you on your different platforms in your groups. You have your roles with your family and your friends and your colleagues. And sometimes we do try to be everything to everybody and it just wears us out. We're too thin. So shrink it down.
Well, the only good thing about me getting that sick is there was no way out of it. I had to do it immediately. You know, and we can just tell ourselves, no, it's just like with working with kids and somebody has 5 kids in the family and each kid is going 4 different places during the week. Well, that doesn't work. So next school year, let's not have the fight now, but next school year, pick one.
Yeah.
You get one. Yeah.
Yeah. And ask for help. Like to me, that's the biggest thing. Like my kids are grown up and they're moved out now. They're on their own. But when I was a mom and I was raising my kids, I did things called carpools where other parents, it was like, why am I driving every single day? Why not get with other parents and, you know, okay, you guys do it on Monday and Tuesday and I'll do it on Thursday and Friday. You know, these are the things where you need to leverage other people's ability to help you. Sometimes it's paid, but if you have to think about it, sometimes we're better off spending our money than spending our time, because you can't get your time back. Our time is so valuable. And I think that people, they don't think of that. And I'll just share this one real quick thing. Yesterday, I did something that I have not done for a very long time. I did a time audit of my day. And I set a timer on my phone for 15 minutes. And from 8 to 5 yesterday, every 15 minutes, I wrote down, what did I do for the last 15 minutes? It was humbling. It was humbling to look and see where my day went. And so that's something, if you don't know what's going on in your life, do a time audit. And then I started to find, so here was the takeaway. By the middle of the day, I started to change what I was doing because I didn't want to write that down. I was honest and truthful, but I thought, I better stop looking at Instagram because I don't want to put that on the time audit anymore. So when you're accountable, even to yourself, you can begin to see, what are your patterns? And my pattern is shiny object, and down the Google rabbit hole I go. And that's, you got to find those things. You got to find those things.
That's just like getting my process down. I have it in the book, like, here's how I did it, but it sure didn't happen overnight. And I say, it didn't even happen over a month.
Yes.
The trick is you have to fix it the next week if something didn't work this week. And in fact, I have a couple of folks who did some interviews with me in the book. And the lady who is a stay-at-home mom said it helped her so much because when she had her week set up always before and she messed something up on Tuesday, well, then the whole week is messed up. And she says, but you taught me, no, that needs to change next Tuesday. Now keep up with the rest of the week.
Yes.
And it's messy for a while.
Yes.
But just change one little thing, as a scientist, that's what I was always taught. You change one little thing at a time and see how that works.
True. And I love the advice that Jeff's sharing here. Actually writing it down helps solidify it for yourself too.
Yes.
And that is important. It's like, whether you're even, I know so many people that they don't even write down how to do particular things.
I know.
So writing down your processes and your steps, we think we're supposed to remember everything, and we can't. And that causes us stress. And that's not even an age thing. That's for anybody. If you think of all the things that we're bombarded with, think our emails, our phones, our texts, and this and that, and then trying to remember fragments. And it's like, if you have to figure out, how do I get on a Zoom call? You don't remember how to share the link to people or what you have to do. Write down your steps, write down a process. And Kathie, I know both you and I. Yep.
Old-fashioned index cards. Started that out when I got into computers.
Yes, I love it. And I think anybody who comes from a technical writing, and that's the one thing Kathie and I share. We both come from a tech writing background, working in IT. You learn to write everything down, and it absolutely saves your life. It saves your life.
Yeah.
So
Jeff, by the way, if you have my book, Jeff, page 3 has a quote on it from someone, because I bring that up too. It's our biology. If you write it down tactilely, not on a screen. People get away from the screens all the time because you're going to remember it. Our brains and our eyes weren't made for screens.
Right.
They were made for this world, the real world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot to that.
And I know that, like with me, I have this is my secret sauce. I have a steno pad. And my steno pads are, my steno pad is numbered. So I start it for the year. And I have a steno pad, and every time I meet with a client and I write something, I write it in the steno pad, so that when I have to go back through it, all I have to do is find one book, it's on some sticky somewhere. Stickies don't work, people.
No.
They don't work. Get yourself something that's not so hard to use, and a steno pad. It's worth its weight in gold. So Kathie,
I do 1 pages a week, and keep 2 or 3 years in one, and you can go back and look at stuff. Yeah, it keeps the week going.
Absolutely. So we've amazingly reached our 30 minutes, and I always like my guests to have an opportunity of, is there something that you would like to close out the show with and give us some sort of final words of wisdom?
Well, I would say, and I don't say this because I want to sell something, but buy my book. It's $11.77. It's not going to break the bank. It's packed full of stuff. I hear from people all the time, and it just does my heart so much good that it helped them so much. And a lot of what we've talked about and, step-by-step stuff is in it. Kind of a little workbook too. It's small. It's not even 1/4 of an inch thick, but it's worth it. And you might want to subscribe. Go to kathieyork.com/subscribe and subscribe to my post, because every about a month and a half, I have either a quick win or a goal kind of thing, and that helps people a lot. But just remember, and this will help a whole bunch, your full-time job starts when you leave work, whether that's working for somebody else or an office in your house or whatever. That's when your full-time job starts. And that's when I tell people, the minute you get in the house, the phone parks somewhere by the door. It doesn't go anywhere that evening. And no screens, especially in the bedroom, nothing ever. No phones, no screens of any type, no computers, no TVs. You will be amazed what that does. For one thing, you can get a better night's sleep, because the screens kill your night vision, if you want to think of it that way. But I just hope everyone will get the book. It's very inexpensive. You can read it in about an hour and a half. I even non-overwhelmed the book. I just packed it all in about 50 pages. And that's the bumper pages and everything. That's, but it's just helping so many people. It's such a blessing that it's helping like it is, but
that's great.
All
That's
there.
great. And then they can, of course, anybody can connect with you on LinkedIn as well. And you just click on Kathie's, just click on her name in my post, and you can connect with Kathie. And I'm sure you're gracious that you would accept new requests. And so just let her know that you found her here on this show. So, okay. So we're going to wrap it up now, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. And we did non-overwhelm, even though the tech was overwhelming, but we got through it today. So that was great. Okay. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.